Hey everybody, Insane Mike here. Another Patreon video here for Taco Killer Podcast. And this one's long overdue. This is going to be my What's in the Bag video from the first ever Midwest Monster Fest. And I say it's long overdue because I've had this stuff sitting here and I've been wanting to put it away for a while now, but I haven't sitting here so I can do a video. So this is the stuff I brought home with me from the Midwest Monster Fest. You probably heard our live show by now from the Midwest Monster Fest. It was the first year. It was in the Quad Cities, and it was a lot of fun. Really cool show. Can't wait for next year. So first off, I have another pop here for the Aquaman bathroom. This is kind of a bronze with greenish tint, kind of like an aged statue. I'm gonna paint some white dots on it for pigeon poop, but actually Tina got this for me. My friend Tina got this to donate to the Aquaman bathroom. Let's see what else here. Okay, so here is a video of some filmmaking friends of mine, a movie they did called Dead of Winter. Can't wait to check it out. I've not seen this, but their production company is Starving Corpse Productions. You can check them out at starvingcorpseproductions.com. They do some really cool stuff. I've liked a lot of their works, but I've yet to see this one, so I can't wait to check that out. And speaking of movies, I did pick up, there was a table that had some great Arrow Blu-rays, and so I picked up the Bloodthirsty trilogy on Blu-ray. I love these movies, these three Asian vampire movies that are done more traditional, not like hopping vampires or vampires from that culture lore. This is more in tradition of like Hammer style film vampire movies, but they're Japanese movies, so they're really cool flicks. So I was really excited to get that. Got myself a calendar from my friends at Midnight Mausoleum. Midnight Mausoleum, Marlena Midnight right there. She is a TV horror host from the Quad City area, and she does a lot of shows and stuff. And she's got a couple of people on her show with her. They're newer additions to the show. I don't remember their names yet, but they're also going to be at our event. They always come to our event, Halloween-a-Palooza. That's coming up here in a couple weeks. So I got my Marlena Midnight calendar, and I'm a big TV movie horror fan, so was excited to get that. Also, I did get one vinyl. Pretty stoked. The Tourist Trap soundtrack, and I haven't even broke the seal yet. Been waiting to do this with you guys here, so I'm gonna break the seal here so I can check out the disc, because it's one of my favorite. This is Waxwork put this out. Waxwork Records, and they usually do some cool stuff with the vinyls themselves. It feels like there's something else in here too. I don't want to rip all the plastic all the way off, just enough to get the stuff out. So here we go. Oh yeah, I can already tell. Man. First of all, if you've never seen this movie, check this movie out. It's bonkers. It's awesome. One of the things for me that I love about it is the score, because the score is one of the craziest scores of a horror film ever. It sounds like it belongs in some kind of slapstick comedy from like the 60s, but it's a horror film, and yet the music still works. Just like slide whistles and stuff in the score. Oh, this is beautiful. It's red, but if you look closely, there's like blotches of black in it, like running there. That's really cool. What else is in the case here? Look here. Feels like maybe like a booklet or something. Oh, I don't know if I can get it out because I think this thing folds open. Yeah, it folds open. Oh, come on. Work with me here. Maybe, oh, I don't think it is an inside. It's just, yeah, there's nothing on the inside. It's the whole thing folds open. Oh, there's something. Cool. All right. Awesome. Okay, and then lastly, I picked up a bunch of comics. I love going through long boxes at shows. This was particularly fun for me because I feel like anytime that I go to like a comic book convention, horror convention, anytime I come across long boxes at a convention or a show, I feel like I should rush because I'm with other people and there's a time constraint. We're maybe only there for a few hours or whatever, or something going on that later that we don't want to miss, whatever the case may be. But we were trapped there the whole weekend because we were vendors there, and so that meant I just could take my time. I can go to that table when I wanted, and just go through the. And I went to that table that had long boxes like 3 or 4 times, just digging because they had a lot of stuff from the era of comics that I love the most, and that's the 70s and the 80s. And I picked up a few things, a few comics to help with some personal collections. I got a couple Defenders comics. I want to start collecting some more oddball stuff. Like I used to have some of these comics when I was a kid, but if anybody out there who's an old jerk like me remembers the kids show The Electric Company, Spider-Man was a character on The Electric Company. And it was like the coolest thing ever. Like I loved the Electric Company more than I loved Sesame Street. But I think 90% of that was because Spider-Man was on the show. So Marvel Comics and Electric Company teamed up to do a comic called Spidey Super Stories. And and these things, I'm assuming they're not in Marvel continuity because the stories are definitely a lot more geared towards kids, so they're way more outrageous and make no sense. And like this one here is it's for the bicentennial. In 1977 was the bicentennial of our country, and the superheroes with the gang from the Electric Company for some reason are having a bicentennial party, and Captain America and Spider-Man would think it would be cool to go back in time to when the Declaration of Independence was signed, and so Doctor Strange says he's going to help him out with that. So for no other reason, the fact that Spider-Man and Captain America just thought it would be cool to go back in time and mess up history by being present at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Doctor Strange sends him back. But Kang the Conqueror was spying on the party, and he decides he's going to go back and take over the world by disrupting the signing of the Declaration of Independence. So they fight Kang in the past with Benjamin Franklin there and all that stuff. That's crazy kid stories that make no sense. But I want to show you like some of the comics I got that relate to the show, because I did pick up some horror comics. I'm starting to. I've always been a fan of horror comics, dating all the way back to like EC Comics and stuff like that. So horror comics from like the 50s through the 80s, like mostly like the anthology stuff. And so I've been working on. I used to have a lot more of them when I was younger, so I'm kind of working on rebuilding a collection of those. And so I picked up a few of those. I got like this one here, House of Secrets, issue 101. And a lot of these is like I'm basing the pickups on a cover. I mean, I could have gone nuts and just bought like a whole stack and probably get a huge chunk of the collection out of the way. But there's just tons of these horror comics out there, all different titles, and like just DC and Marvel alone had tons of these anthology horror books throughout the years that I'm just like, I don't know where to start. So and then there's all the other companies too, like Charlton and Golden Key and Gold Key and stuff like that. That you know, go broke if I were to just like start amassing collections all at once. So I'm basing it a lot on what sparks my interest of the covers, and then down the road, filling in holes in the collection or whatever. But just right now, because to me, this is art. This is something that belongs in a frame on a wall. It's beautiful art. I love it, and that's one of the things that really appeals to me about horror comics, and especially comics of those eras. The covers to me are just beautiful and works of art, and I love them. I had never read any of these before, but I've always wanted to, so I picked up a random issue of Werewolf by Night by Marvel Comics. He was, at the time, their resident werewolf character. And this was like the 70s, where they were basically, they did horror comics, but they were also trying to appeal to the comics code, so they were doing horror comics more in the vein of superhero comics, with stuff like Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night. There was a Frankenstein Monsters one. I forget the name of it, but and then lastly, and then this one is hilarious for me. Speaking of superhero comics, this is DC Comics Presents 53. Now, DC Comics Presents in the 70s and 80s was a team-up book where each issue was Superman teaming up with a different superhero. Whether it would be Batman or The Flash or Plastic Man or Captain Marvel or whoever they wanted to highlight in that issue. And I miss those type of books. I really wish that would come back. There was also Brave and the Bold back in the day. It was that format where it was a Batman book, but he would team up with a different character each issue. And Marvel did that too. They had Marvel Team Up, which was a Spider-Man book where he teamed up with different characters. And then there was Marvel 2-in-1, which was a Thing book where he teamed up with different characters. And I loved them because 9 times out of 10 they were one-and-done stories, or maybe it was like a two-parter, but it wasn't some like year-long event that carried through that was a life-changing event. No, it was this fun little one in-and-out stories that didn't upset the status quo too much. But you could highlight different heroes, different villains, and I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me why these type of books don't exist more, because a lot of times when you see like a character, like a B-list or even a Z-list character that's forced into a story somewhere, the only reason why they're there is for that comic book company to continue to hold on to the copyright of said character. And what better way to do that than throw all these random characters in a team-up book with your A-list characters like Superman or Batman. And there's some books out there that are kind of like that nowadays. There's actually a Scooby-Doo, believe it or not, there's a Scooby-Doo book that is, it's definitely more a kids-oriented book, but there's a Scooby-Doo team-up book that is awesome. And it's just that. It's Scooby-Doo and the gang, but teaming up mostly with different DC comic book heroes. They've done team-ups with like Batman, obviously. One of my favorites, though, is them teaming up with the Doom Patrol, because I'm a big Doom Patrol fan. Anyway, short story long. So this is DC Comics Presents number 53, Superman and the House of Mystery. And this is another great reason why I love these type of books, because every once in a while, I just feel like people sitting around the DC office are like, we're kind of getting bored. We've done Superman the Atom. We've done Superman and Flash. They fought some aliens, whatever, sent them packing. What are we going to do? Let's do something really weird. How about Superman teaming up with the House of Mystery? Where, House of Mystery had a horror host in the book, and it was Cain of Cain and Abel. And for comic book readers that more modern comic book, well, not really modern, but more like Vertigo style DC comic readers will know Cain and Abel from the Sandman series. But Cain and Abel started off as comic hosts of different horror books, and Cain was the host of House of Mystery. So it's hilarious in here for me to see Cain, who is always like so stoic and trying, being a horror host kind of thing, being a crypt keeper. But then like standing around chit chatting with Superman, and as if these guys have known each other for years too, and that's the other funny part of it too. Like they're just old pals, even though like Superman is Superman, greatest superhero ever of the DC universe, and Kane is this like supernatural character that never leaves this house, and so how would they know each other? The last thing I for horror comics I picked up, again, I love The Strange and the Bizarre, but I've always heard this is a really good book, and I love the direction they're taking with this franchise, and that is Afterlife with Archie. This is the storyline. I picked up the first trade. This is the storyline where zombies attack Riverdale, and Archie and the gang have to fight them off. Now, this isn't some goofy like satire of it like you see in other earlier Archie team up books, when Archie was still more of the cartoony comedy comic where they would team up with Predator or Punisher or whatever, but it was still kind of silly. No, this is dark. The first zombie that attacks is Jughead. So Jughead is dead in this series. Sorry, spoilers. A major Archie character is like the lead zombie in this. So it's dark, and what's cool is that no one's safe. And I like how they are doing different things with Archie. And I like it, and I can accept it because like the original's still always there. They still do standard Archie comics, that we all grew up with. They still have those comic type strips, but then they also try other things too, like this series, or a more grounded in reality type of Archie books. Much like the TV show Riverdale is actually based on the whole Archie comic series, and I've always had a soft spot for Archie and its comic company, and the fact that this is a comic book company that does things their way, the way they want to. I've always done it the way they want to, and it's usually you're only dealing with maybe one group of characters, and that's the gang from Riverdale, and they've been doing it their way for ever. I mean, other than DC and Marvel, I think it's probably the longest still running comic book company that's out there, and I really like that. I really admire that. I mean, as a matter of fact, Archie's the only comic book. I don't even know the parent name of the company anymore. I know they've changed names several times over the years. Maybe it is just Archie Comics. They're the only comic books nowadays that you can still buy like off of a newsstand or at a grocery store. Like all other comic books nowadays is direct sales to like comic book stores or mail order or what have you. But I can go right now to the grocery store and buy some of those like small digest Archie comics right there next to People Magazine, and that's cool. That they are still doing that. Even I wish I could go. I wish I could find other comics at the grocery store or wherever. So anyway, went off on several tangents there, but at the end of the day, wasn't as big of a take home as I usually do at conventions. Just a lot of stuff going on personally that keeping an eye on the finances. We got Halloween-a-Palooza coming up, and we've got more conventions and stuff that we're doing. So that is so just being a little tighter with the money, but couldn't come home empty-handed. Had to show you my stuff. So anyway, so that's it. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you on the next episode of Attack of the Killer podcast.